sacrificing your early teens, it'll set you up nicely in the future. But we live in such a competitive world nowadays that if you don't make smart financial decisions when you're younger, you're gonna have to pay the price when you're older.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Embassy Podcast. This is your host, Armani Anand, and I'm back at you again with two extraordinary individuals to my right and to my left. To the right, I have Harjeet Doat, and to my left, I have Aftab Dylan. Both of these guys are absolutely crushing it in the real estate industry, and I'm so excited to share knowledge with you guys with three ideal minds on one table, ready to throw some game at you.
Super excited for this podcast. Today, don't have any script. We just know what we want to cover. We're going to cover smart financial decisions because the decisions we make today can and will affect us down the line. So super interesting. And especially if you're young, this is very important for you to listen up on.
Especially if you're very young, you're starting off in real estate, starting off in your career, you're 18 years old, literally just finished high school. It's so beneficial for you to actually learn and know these things that you can actually set yourself up in the next 5 years by making little changes in your life and having a game plan.
The most important thing is, right, when you're that age, you have to get into the mindset. And to get into the right mindset to actually be ahead in your 20s is very crucial, because a lot of people actually will sacrifice their 20s for fun, just because they think the 20s is, the golden era of having all the fun. You're only going to be 20 once in your life, which is true, but it also goes onto the other way of investing, where you need to actually think about your future. And if you are a smart individual and you are more mature than most in your peers, then what you're going to do is you're going to make those right decisions earlier on in your 20s, just so you have a competitive advantage over everybody in your 30s, 40s, and you're well retired when everybody else is sacrificing their life and working their life away, trying to have the life that you have much earlier, just because you grinded earlier and you were in the right mind frame.
I completely agree with you, Armani, on that one. Like, sacrificing your early teens, it'll set you up nicely in the future. But we live in such a competitive world nowadays that if you don't make smart financial decisions when you're younger, you're going to have to pay the price when you're older.
See, I love what you said there, pay the price. People don't realize you're going to have to pay the price either early or later, but you got to pay the price always. There's no way around it.
You have to pay your dues.
You got to pay the price. So you just choose when do you want to pay that price. If you pay the price earlier on, you'll have a better, longer life earlier on, where you can enjoy more things for a longer duration of time. That's the personal route that I took, and that's the personal route that I think a lot of people should take, instead of saying, 20s, I don't really care about money. I just want to party with my friends. I want to go to college. I want to go to college parties. It's good to do that, but have a balance of both, right? Really try to structure your mindset and your frame around the people that are successful as well, around you, that are opening new businesses, trying new things, going on social media, trying to start new things to try to generate income and generate revenue, and learning new things and failing at new things. So that's very important. Pay the price, pay it today. You'll be a lot better off because it'll be the cheapest cost today.
You're younger, you got more time, you got more energy, you have more risk tolerance. It's just like, it's much better and much more beneficial for you to start at a younger age rather than when you're older, don't have time, have more commitments. Just take the risk today, put in the grind today, and it'll benefit you in the long run.
And it comes down to discipline. You can be disciplined for a very long time, even when you're young. You can be disciplined for a long time, everything's going well, and then you can lose that discipline, and all of a sudden you backtrack a while. I've done that in the past. I've been disciplined myself, I've been good, I started building, then I go off the ramp, have fun, go crazy, and then I come back, I'm like, I put myself back again.
Well, why do you think that is? Do you think complacency is the thing? Like, did you, things just start to go right, let's just say whether it's in your gym, in your personal life, or whether it's in your finances, complacency sets in, especially when we're younger, because that discipline is there, but it's not really there because you're not disciplined enough to maintain that pace for a long period of time.
And you know what? There's different types of people and different times that people lose that discipline. So when you're younger, I think most people don't form that discipline because they think it's out of reach and it's not possible. They see these people with fancy cars, luxury cars, rich houses, and all of that, and they're like, it's just not possible. I don't need to be disciplined and try to even get there because it's not possible. Then some people who are on that track, they know they can do it, so they just get a little complacent because they're like, okay, I need to have some fun. I need to, blow off some steam, because they know they can make it back. But they do eventually. What they do is they backtrack, and it takes longer to get back to where you were. So depends on where you are at life, but you have to analyze yourself, look inwards, and see where am I today, what do I have to do, and how do I get to where I want to be.
But before you even see that, right, that you have to have a vision to say, look, I have to change something. I have to want more. If you don't want more, that's where complacency comes in, because you're just settled.
Yeah, you're content.
And you shouldn't be content. And being content is, I think, one of the biggest drugs that we get offered in society, especially right now. Whether it's salary, whether it's with the life that you may have right now, if you're okay with it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's always good to keep achieving and keep improving and trying to want more, because it's not just about you. It's about future generations to come after you, and you have to pay that forward to your kids, because you will have kids one day. Even though if you're in your 20s, you don't think you're gonna have kids right now, chances are you're gonna be married in your 30s and you're gonna have kids. So better start thinking about that earlier, because now I'm 29. I'm turning 30. I got to think about marriage. I got to think about, my future, my life with my wife, that, all that stuff, right? Like, and all these things are not cheap. And we don't think about it earlier on, because we're like, yeah, is that time ever going to come? We don't know. But if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the money, if you didn't grind in your 20s, how are you supposed to pay for that? And me being Indian, an Indian wedding, just an FYI,
okay.
Indian weddings cost anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000. For I'm talking about $200,000 being an extravagant, decent wedding, nothing crazy, but you can go up to $400,000 just because our weddings are very lavish. They're like a week-long events, so it takes a lot of money to do this stuff.
Exactly, and I think the key point you said is, when you're younger, it's not as expensive to take those risks, because if you're older, if you're 29, 30, mid-30s, and you're planning on getting married, having kids, you have a lot of your funds are already allocated. You don't have a lot of funds to play with anymore. Whereas when you're younger, all your funds are available to you.
When you say allocated, what do you mean by that? Like, where are they allocated?
So let's say you're married already, you're having kids. You can't go out and be like, okay, I'm going to drain my bank account, invest everything, and see what happens. You can't do that because you have kids. So you have to have a house. The kids need food, water, shelter, schooling. They need everything to raise a kid. Raising a kid's expensive, as well as if you're married, you have your spouse. They're expensive too. Whether you're the man or the woman, you're gonna have to spend some money. So there's a certain amount of money that's already been allocated.
Yeah.
And that's just the basics, not including any extras that come along with what life entails. So you can't put all your funds towards investing and setting up for the future. Whereas when you're young, if you're, let's say you're 20, living with your parents, you have other siblings, all of a sudden, all your funds are available to you, because what you can do is take a small chunk for yourself, everything else just put it away until you can invest into something or do whatever it is you want to do. Is start up a business, try some things, because if you fail, all that money's gone. You're still okay. You're young. You can rebuild. You can't do that when you're older.
Yeah. So let's say when you're young, you saved up money and you put it towards an investment, and it gives you a great return. That actually gives you so much time, so much freedom, where you can actually, enjoy life. It gives you that, it takes that weight off your shoulders, where, you can make smarter choices. You can actually build faster. But, if you don't make smart financial decisions, it can actually be really hard in the future, where, you do have expenses coming up. One solid investment can change your life. It can make things a lot easier down the road. Like you said up top, you're going to have expenses down the road. But one financial decision that can set you up, give you a breather, can help out so much.
So let's talk about some of these good investments that we're going to make. Like you said, you have to make an investment. You have to actually use that as a vehicle to guide you to financial freedom, like many of us have achieved here. How do we do that? So if you're starting off in your 20s, what's some advice that you have for people that are listening, that are in their 20s, early 20s, starting off their careers, just getting into an entry-level job right after university, or whether they're still in university? How can they start planning for that investment? What steps do they need to take, and what mindset should they have before they buy that investment?
You have to change your mindset and say that you want to do something. If you don't want to do something, if that mindset's not there, that, I can't do something, then you've already failed. Mindset is number one.
Okay. Number two, what do you think?
Personal education. I'm not talking about the conventional, go to school, learn, get a degree, and go to whatever job you studied for. Personal education into whatever interests you and your passions are, because most of the time, no matter what your passion is, if you're passionate about it, you'll make money out of it, because you'll figure it out. So invest in yourself, whether that's you dressing nicer, you reading books, you getting a mentor, paying them if you have to, whatever it is, invest in yourself before you put money outwards.
Exactly. I think that's a great big point. And one of the things that I think is a competitive advantage for people in their 20s now, especially with the social media era, we all have phones. We have free information all around us. As I always say, TikToks, Instagrams, YouTube. You can learn from so many people, just like we are here. We're sharing our experiences and our trials and tribulations with you all because of the things that we went through, right? Like I was 20 at one point in my life. He's still 20, I think, right? How old are you?
26.
He's 26. I'm kidding.
He's trying to compensate for getting old.
No, I'm saying you look young, even though you all got all these grays, but it's cool. Like Harjeet, still, like super young guy, but we were all 20 once, and we have regrets. We have things that we look back and we can say, look, we could do this better, and we just want to pay that forth to the next generation because these are the few things that we should have done when we were 20, 21, 22. So if we're starting off, number one thing is belief. I think belief is a big factor that it comes down to is you have to believe in the process, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in a better future for yourself. So when these things happen, guess what happens? You start automatically going into this positive mindset where you start attracting things all around you because now you're attracting things just because your belief is so strong that you're going to make things happen for yourself that no negativity can ever affect you. And once you have that sorted out, then you go out into the world because belief is the first step. Is everybody around you at that time in your younger 20s will not see the vision that you have. And that's a lot of negativity and hate that comes your way and derails you off the tasks and off the things that you want to do, especially when you're younger, when you're earlier on, because you don't have the confidence yet because you don't know if it's a proven concept. So if you don't, this might work, this might not work, all these things can, alter your direction completely. So you have to believe in yourself, stay the course, and start the journey. And starting the journey and educating yourself and making sure that you're actually investing into yourself first by learning and failing. And you have to do those things simultaneously to keep trying new things.
I think the one thing people have to consider is don't regret the mistakes you've made, learn from them, and move on, right? Everyone makes mistakes.
Make mistakes first.
Yeah, make the mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Because no matter, you could tell me a step-by-step game plan of do this and you'll succeed. Somewhere along the way, I'm going to misstep. I'm going to read the instructions wrong. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to make a mistake. But I have to self-analyze, be like, okay, I made this mistake. Let me learn from it, move on. You can't just quit on your first failure.
Agreed. Now, another thing that, I watched a TikTok today. I watched a lot of TikToks. I'm on TikTok. We're all on TikTok. But this TikTok was really cool because it was about a person. It was just narrating this like life of his. He's like, there's a person that started off in their 20s, became a CEO at 25. And then there's a person that started at 50, became the president at 70s. That's, guess who that is? Donald Trump, right? The Trump became a president in the 70s. Obama retired at 55. So there's a big difference between when someone's journey started, when someone's journey ended. But they were both presidents, right? So everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own timelines. Don't compare your timeline to the next individual next to you. You might have peers that are out excelling you right now, and you might think that they were doing different things that are much more glorious, much more fashionable, much more enjoyable than the life that you're living. But there's no life better than yours. And the reason why is because you have your own journey. You have your own agenda. So don't look at anybody else's. Just have your blinders on and keep working on the things that you know. Because one day you can change your life and you can do it for yourself. So I think belief goes back into that. And any other tips for 20-year-olds or young 20s starting off for investing? How do they begin on their investment journey?
And you know what's funny? I made a video on this just a couple hours ago. So alongside with discipline and self-investing, you have to know it doesn't mean necessarily save every penny pinch, spend some money, but put it wisely. So when I was making this video, I was talking about, listen, for me personally, for my career, I could go out and buy a LV hoodie. It's going to do me nothing. It's not going to help me career-wise. But for the same price, if I go buy a suit, all of a sudden, that same amount of money for another piece of clothing helps my career.
Why?
Because it's a utility item. It's something that's it's used in my profession. But that LV hoodie, same price, might look cool, but it's not going to help me career-wise. Won't help me, expand. So I'll go spend stupid money on these suits and be totally fine with it. But I don't do the same thing with luxury hoodies. So when you're young, figure out where you should put your money. It might be expensive, sure, but if it serves a good purpose that's going to help you advance, go ahead, spend it.
Yeah, it should contribute to the niche that you're trying to focus in. That's what Aftab is trying to say. Is you could buy the LV hoodie if you're a fashion director or if you're someone that's in the fashion industry in Paris. That can advance your career. But use those items or tools only if they serve a purpose for you. Don't just do it because of the keepsakes or the name of the crowd and what advantages that you'll have of getting into a crowd to impress people. I think, and that's where the most of the world and society is at right now. And that is another thing that I feel like people get into a lot is when they're younger, when they're earlier on, they want to have acceptance. Everybody likes to be loved. Everybody likes to be liked. If you can get away from just having people give you justification of, okay, you know what, I accept you into this group, you want validation. If you can get away from that kind of mindset, I think you're already way ahead than 99% of the people that still don't achieve that even later on in their 30s. So that's also another factor. What do you think, Harjeet?
Don't hustle backwards. It's if you're young, work hard. Whether in your profession, you're working, you're getting a salary, you're getting, let's say, $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Let's say, but you're saving your money. You say you want to invest in something, but imagine every month you're relying on a salary. You're relying on a paycheck. If you miss a day of work, miss a couple of days of work, it's gonna hit you hard. But imagine that you actually worked hard. You saved your money. You invested your money, and now you cashed out from that investment. Let's say you have $150,000 to $200,000 sitting peacefully in your account. How is that gonna change your life? You can do so much. You can actually breathe. It'll change your life for the better. But some people, they just want to be in that cycle where they want to work. Let your money work for you. You have to go through so much struggle in order to get to that stage where you can actually cash out from your returns, and that'll change your life.
Yeah.
And you know what a key point is? So I'm going to ask you both a question, because a lot of parents, especially like all three of us are Indian, in the Indian community, they want us to have certain careers where $150,000 salary is, oh my God, my son, my daughter made it. They're making $150 a year. So let me ask you guys, if you were to work a 9-to-5 job and you're making $150 a year, would you rather take that or work for yourself and make $90 a year?
I would make $50 a year and work for myself.
Exactly.
Because I think the number one thing for me is, I think the reason why I got into real estate and very on when I first started was when I actually started doing all these jobs. I remember my job at Tim Hortons. I was a baker. They controlled the time that I woke up. They controlled the time that I slept. There were some days that I did not feel well, but I had to wake up. And if I didn't wake up, I wasn't making that $10, $10.25 or $7.50 or whatever the salary was at the time. It was very negligible. Like my gas, I had a CL 500 Mercedes. The gas on that car used to cost $120 to fill up at that time, premium gas. And I'm in my like 17, I'm 16, 17, and I'm trying to pay for this car. Right? Just newly got my license, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this fancy car. The car was super cheap. It was a $200,000 car that was discounted at like $10K. The reason why we got it for $10,000 is because I had so many problems with it, right? They depreciated, like the biggest depreciated asset of all time. Somebody bought that for $200,000 and sold it to a high school kid, right? And losing money on that car taught me a lot of things, because I was just working just to pay for the gas. But there was days that I did not want to work. But I had to wake up because my schedule showed me, oh shit, I have to feel good on this day to wake up on this time. I have to feel good on this day to wake up on that time. That didn't sit well with me. And that was when the concept of working a 9-to-5 or working for somebody that dedicated a time, something that I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy baking Timbits. I enjoyed eating them. That was my passion, right? I should be on the other side of the counter paying to buy Timbits, but I was eating all the stuff that I was making, and I was getting fat, and I didn't enjoy being there.
And,
but
and to tag along to that point, this is something we've discussed. These are discussions that we've had personally, right? So when you're working for someone else, there's always a limit to what you can achieve. Let's say you're making $150,000 and you pull all the doubles and overtime that you can. You make $200,000 the next year. Great. You made a lot more. You made $50,000 more than what your base salary was, but you're capped at what you can do at that career and that position. Personally.
But let me flip that back at you. What if it's a career that you want? Like you have the job that you like. This is exactly what you dreamt of. You're passionate about the work that you do, and you're getting $150,000 salary to do that.
If you're passionate about it, then I feel like it makes sense. But there's always a way to do it for yourself rather than for someone else.
But not everybody's made out to be a business owner.
That is true.
Right? Not everybody can do the accounting and do the little things that needs to direct a business that way, to employ a person, to have 150 grand. That's also the flip side of it,
That
right?
is true. That
And
is
then
true.
what about stability? Now let's just say you got 3 kids, you got 4 kids, you got a wife, and you're the only earning member of the household.
That's where it comes back. Where if you want more in life, you have to start when you're younger. Because I would hate to be in a position like it, don't get me wrong. If I had a wife, kids, and I was making 200K a year, had a nice house, nice life, but I would hate to have that feeling like, oh, I wish I started my own business.
Yeah,
when I
regret.
was younger.
You would have to
always have that
yeah.
regret. So if you start younger, you fail. You can always go back to that career choice.
Yeah.
Like nothing's stopping
Yeah.
you from going there after.
It comes to your obligations, right? Now you're obliged
Yeah.
to this career. And let's just say your boss comes at you the next day and you work there for 20 years. And so what happens in companies. My father was a doctor his whole life. He was his own medical professional. He had his own hospital. But when we came to Canada, he had to work for a Jewish group downtown. And I'm not going to take the name of the Jewish group, but, you know, he used to operate on eyes. So he used to do cataracts and all these surgeries. But this was a privately owned medical practice downtown Toronto, really established, really well, but they paid him a salary. Even though he was a doctor, he was an employed doctor, right? He was a salaried doctor. He didn't have his own business here. So worked there. He gave, I think, as long as we've been in this country, he's been with that group. My dad's just went over 60, 61, 62, and this is the time when he started going into work. They started hiring and firing everybody around him. All his peers that he actually went to work with every day for 20, 20, 30, 20, 25 years, just got fired one day. And he was the last stick on the line, and they were trying to figure out a way to fire him because he was getting older. So they wanted to replace that workforce with younger workforce. Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad comes home one day, and he's very upset. And he's like, I'm like, Dad, what happened? He's like, I'm just not having fun in the career that I'm in right now. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, everybody around me got fired. There's all these 20-year-olds telling me exactly what to do. They're in their early 30s or 20s, and they're telling me that I'm slow. I take my time with my patients because my patients are older, and they cannot run in and run out of the room. He's like, I examine them properly. I take my time with them, and I make sure I give them the service that built this business, that built this company. And he was the most loved doctor at that place because he would take the time to understand the patient, and he was just, they wanted the more cookie cutter approach of swipe the OHIP card, next patient, next patient, next patient, next patient. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't doing it fast enough, whereas another guy would just see a patient for 10 minutes, wouldn't really diagnose you. Next. Okay, thank you. Next appointment. Next appointment. Because they would just swipe your cards. Mm-hmm. And with swiping those cards, it would generate the business more money. But the quality went down, quantity went up, right? And at that point, like, that's what it came down to, and that's what I always think about is, my dad had a decision to make, but he was the only earning member of the household at the time because my mom, her shoulder gave out. She was a dentist. She worked her whole life. She's entering her 60s. And at that time, her shoulder gave out. She wasn't working. She was trying to rehab her shoulder so he can start working again. So she had a little leave, but he was the only guy making money in the house. And he's like, it's okay. He's like, until they fire me, I'll keep working. And he worked there for 4 more years, even though he didn't want to, because that was he had to. Right? He had to pay for the food on the table. And those are the things that I remember I'm looking at as, growing up. And I'm like, listen, I never want to be in that situation because my dad is too great of a man to say no to that because he knew exactly, what he was doing it for. So he would push through it. I don't know if I could do the same.
Yeah.
Armand,
right?
You know what this really comes back to is like, your dad had a choice, right? If you wanted to work or, he had a family to take care of. But this also comes back to that you don't own your job. It's a liability.
Yeah.
You literally don't own your job. You can be fired, replaced
immediately. Yeah. If you don't perform, you're out, right? Yep. And business plans can change. The company was sold to a different company, so the whole ownership changed, and the new ownership started hiring all younger people because they didn't value the older people because they were like they're more liabilities. They're gonna have to come into a certain age group where we're gonna have to pay severance and retirement. Yeah. And before retirement, they fired everybody. Yeah. So
because you look at all these jobs now, these technologies replace so many jobs, like especially globalization. Yeah. You gotta understand that you don't own your job. You can be replaced immediately, and you have to have a backup plan. And I'm not saying like have another job in the background. I'm saying you have to be financially smart, financially invested, have money sitting comfortably on the side where if you were to be laid off, you were to lose your job, you will still be fine and your family will still be okay.
Yeah, and that's a conversation, sorry to cut you off there, but that's a conversation, touching back on that is what I had with Aftab. Literally every single nighttime after the gym, after we work out, I come to this like hiatus moment where I'm always trying to like whatever I'm feeling at that time, because you just literally you've been battling iron all day. You've been pushing so hard because I go there like kicking my ass just to try to make sure that Like my muscles get tired and I get exhausted by the time we're done. And by the time we're done, we're fatigued and we're looking at each other. I'm like, man, we're just discussing life goals, discussing things of, higher powers. And we're like, you know what are we going to do in our life to impact ourselves positively? We did our work at the gym, but now what about financially? We got to make sure we're physically fit in all our aspects, right? And what was the conversation that we had the other day?
Yeah, this was a long conversation. We
What
were
was
there
that
for
regarding?
a couple of hours.
It was about.
The-
It was about. I'm just gonna say it was about FU money. What is FU money to you? What is the definition of FU money?
I
Right.
don't know, man. I wasn't there.
No.
You guys didn't invite
So-
me.
Own your house.
Yeah.
Have enough money to say F you to anyone.
Yeah.
You could tell me, let's say you're a random guy, I want my business to run where someone comes to me, they're like, I want you to work for me. I say, F you. I don't
Yeah.
need to work for you. I'm fine.
Exactly. Everybody has a definition of FU money, and the definition of FU money for yourself should be: there's no obligations or things holding you back to not say FU if you wanted to come out of that situation. That's what FU money is. There's a number and a price tag for you to live comfortably. As long as you attach and hit that number, where you can actually eat for another year if you wanted to without working a day in your life. After that, you can have all your bills paid and you have a basic stability formulated. That is considered FU money. Once you have hit that goal, your FU money has been secured. So everybody should try to make enough money in their life to make sure they're stable to have FU money. As long as I have FU money, this is supposed to be a censored podcast, but that's literally what the definition of FU money is. It's
Exactly.
so no one can hold something over you, whether it's time, whether it's things that you have to do. There's no constraints. There's no there's nothing holding you back to that, right?
Now let's go back. So we've discussed the 9 to 5 aspect. Now let's go to the self-employed aspect where you're running and operating your own business.
So pros and cons. We're all self-employed. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So do you have a guaranteed paycheck coming every single month?
Nope.
No. Does that scare you?
Nope.
Why?
Because all it takes is one deal to literally change your life.
Exactly. But why doesn't it scare you? What if that deal never happens? Most people will never leave a guaranteed income of 60 to 75,000 to get into our business. Why is that?
What scares me is guaranteed income. Because when you have guaranteed income coming in, you get lazy. That's just true. You're lazy. You know money's coming. You're like, okay, X amount is coming. I'll spend X amount and I'll be okay. You get lazy. The best months I perform is when I don't look at how much money's coming in because I don't know because I'm like, I got to make some money. I got to produce income. Where do I invest my money? What do I do with it? You don't look back. You don't see what's finished. You just keep going work because you have that fire because you know if you're not working, you're not producing. So when you're self-employed, that pressure that's put on you really makes you perform, but it's not for everyone. Some people crack under pressure.
And there's a lot of pressure. This business is definitely not an easy business, but it's one that's very rewarding and very fruitful if it's done properly and if it's done with a good intent. If you're getting into the business of being self-employed just for the paycheck, it's not the business for you. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people, like there's X amount of realtors, only 10% make all the money, out of which 10%, the 10 percentile is still making less money than an average 9-to-5er. So you have to be in the upper tiers of the 10% to make all the money. It's not easy to get there, but it's very possible to get there. It's just about discipline, drive, and self-management with a lot of things that you're doing in your life, and it makes you think about life in different ways. We have to do things like this. You have to market yourself. You have to put yourself out there. You have to educate yourself on the market 24/7 to educate the peers that are actually learning from you. So if you have to provide value. And if you're on this side, it's scary being on this side, but it's scarier being on the other side. And I can never go on that side.
And a very good example of this is, remember that pizza shop we went to like 2-3 weeks ago with those the two cousins? So we went to this pizza shop. We walked in. It's just a normal Pizza Depot. So, we went in, owned by some Indian guys. But it was totally different. They used proper cheeses that they import from Italy. They had all these options. It tasted amazing. But beside it, they owned another business, which
Italian
was like
bakery.
Italian bakery.
Yeah.
And those guys are hustlers. They haven't been in the country long.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. They learned from a different restaurant. Where was it?
They worked in Toronto. They worked in a different restaurant under another different Italian restaurant and bakery in Toronto. They learned the business from there. Then they uprooted themselves from Toronto and they came to Windsor, Ontario, and they said, we're going to start our own business. And they went all in.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they saved. And I saw how hard these guys work. They were there 9 a.m. in the morning till like 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
time at nighttime.
That's when we were there.
Yeah,
We
2:30.
needed some work to do, and we went to the only place that was open.
Yeah, yeah, and phenomenal. Like they didn't cut any cost. Pizza Depot's a franchise throughout Canada. It's renowned as like one of the most best Indian desi pizzas you can buy, with like different toppings that you don't normally get in different pizza places like Pizza or Domino's. But these guys actually used higher quality cheeses, best dipping sauces, like naturally grated garlic sauce. And I was like, the cost is so high on this. How are you guys making any money? Because they were selling it for cost. And he's like, these are things that we're just doing to build our clientele up. He's like, we believe in quality. We're not quantity based. And he's like, we're just trying to get clients like you to appreciate this. And I was like, damn, this is sick. This tastes so good.
Yeah.
And, you know, they won us over. So
Yeah.
now they have a business, but they work and grind it all the time. But now they're business owners before they were salaried employees.
Exactly. And that's where hustle recognizes hustle, right? When you meet people, you know, you're like, okay, this guy's going to make it.
Yeah.
Whether they've started yet or not, but they have that intent and that mindset, you know they're going to do something,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Well, you have to have the security, no matter in 9 to 5 or in self-employed. You have to have the security for yourself, and security is only built by disciplinary investment strategies. You have to have disciplined investment strategies where you're actually investing small amounts of money. Whenever you're making any type of money, don't use that access money and spend it and think that you have a surplus this month. Use that money to invest it and slowly recycle that money over and over and over again into different investments. It could be stocks, it could be real estate. Even if you're contributing $300 to $400 into stocks every single month, over 5 years, that's going to be a lot of money because you're gradually buying the same stock. Let's just say if you're buying Apple. Apple went up 47%, right? Just this year alone from where it was last year. If you're buying Apple stock for the last 3 years and you're working 9 to 5, or if you're self-employed, whenever you make a check, take a portion of your check and contribute towards that investment, just so that investment vehicle is always doing something for you and that money's invested. And it's helping you grow into a larger compounded money that's been growing on the side. Because as you get older, and you're going to get older, you're not going to stay the same age forever, there's automatic investments happening on the side. And once you have enough, get into real estate. Real estate will really change your life. It's changed everybody's life here behind this camera that you're looking at, and it can definitely change yours. It's one of those things that, you know, you have to be mindful of, and you have to be conscious about saying, you know what, I want to do this.
And you know what? A great example is money is like cars. You already know. Cars are meant to be driven. If you don't drive a car for a long time, what happens? It breaks down.
Yeah.
It doesn't run. If you're not putting your money to work, it's not going to work for you at all. It's going to be worth less. It's just going to sit there, and then all of a sudden you're going to look
It's a
back
tool.
and be like, oh, man.
It's a tool. You have to use that tool to build a better dream for yourself, you know, to live out your dreams. Another thing, speaking of cars, like we just bought, there's 2 Cadillacs that are just sitting in the driveway. I have no idea why I bought 2 Escalades, but I'll tell you, what was the reason why I bought 2 Escalades?
So one thing that I really admire and appreciate about Armani is that he's taught me one thing in life. I'm not going to buy it unless it makes me money. So that really changed my perspective on how I view things, because I love pickup trucks. I love cars. I want to get an exotic one day. But now it changed the whole trajectory of my game plan. I want to buy a vehicle which I get paid to drive. And when I sell it, I make money off it. So imagine that. You're literally buying something that you are having fun with, showing it off, keeping for X amount of months, years, but when you sell it, you're getting paid to own
But
it.
cars are liabilities. How am I able to make money on cars?
Because it's an investment. Let's say, for example, a Corvette, they only made X amount this year, but you were the lucky person that got that allocation. Now there's a whole demand on this Corvette, but you're that lucky guy that actually has it, and hey, you're driving it around. But you know that in X amount of months that there's still gonna be a demand for it, and when you sell it, let's say you bought it for example, $120,000, but now let's say in about next year it's gone up $50,000. You just cashed out what you bought it for, plus you made $50,000 on top.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things that if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. And that's a philosophy that you have to adapt earlier on, whether it comes to liabilities, cars, clothes, watches, rings, jewelry, anything. Any philosophy in life has to apply to that. And that's one of those things that I've done over and over again. People always classify vehicles as depreciating assets, which they are, and I agree with them. But not all cars are made the same. because depending on, you have to obviously do your research. You have to be knowledgeable about the industry. You have to be passionate about vehicles, because that's the only reason you're going to be in the space. But I only buy cars that make money. And every single car I've owned till date, I've made money on. And I can say that hands down, because last 8 years, no matter what car I bought, the only car I lost money on was a Maserati. And that was the most best car I've ever bought. But it was one of those things that, I bought because I really wanted it. It was like my FU thing, right? It was my FU dream come to life at the time, because that's when I achieved that level. And I was like, I don't want to say FU to the world. This is how I did it. But it was all for the wrong reasons. And that's why I lost money. I got deviated off my strategies. And my strategies is I buy cars that are appreciating in value, and they're appreciating in value because supply and demand. The supply is low, demand is super high. So I buy those cars and I'm on the wait list. I have great relationship with different dealerships throughout Canada. They give me the cars right when they come. They call me I bought an Escalade from London. Shout out to Morgan Crosby. He got me my car. Then I got another car from Windsor. Shout out to Dave Hamilton in Windsor. He got me my car here. And they're like, hey, you picked up a Cadillac. You want another one? I'm like, why in my right mind would I want another Cadillac? He's like, you know why? He's like, Armani, if you want one. I'm like, you know what? I'll come sign for it. I looked at what they were trading for. I bought it for $170. It's selling right now for $185, $190. So $15,000 cushion for a brand new car, but I get to drive it. I get to own it. And there's nothing better than that. You're getting paid to drive vehicles, and I love cars. So
Exactly.
So
Makes a
you're
lot of sense.
actually taking what you know and learn from real estate and applying it to different areas in your life.
exactly. You turn a depreciating asset into an investment vehicle for you. Literally an investment vehicle. So
And you know what? The key thing is, that doesn't mean you should go out and buy a car and then drive it around because you're going to make money. Because what are you going to do? You're going to exit those Escalades when it's time to exit. You're not going to hold it on until it starts to, all of a sudden it starts depreciating.
No.
Because you're going to let them go, right?
what did I do with the Ferrari?
Yeah, you let it go when it was priced higher.
What did I buy it at?
Like $500,000, I can't remember.
And what did I sell it at?
I don't remember. But you made money on it, I remember that.
I drove that car for a year.
Yeah.
I drove it for X amount of kilometers. I had a Ferrari for a long time, and I made $35,000 to $40,000 on that car after driving it.
Yeah.
How many guys do you know can do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I'm not a dealer.
Yeah.
I'm not in the car flipping business.
Yeah.
I just like cars, but I make smart financial decisions. I buy it for lower than cost. And that's the same philosophy that we use and apply when we buy properties. If a property has an X amount of price, we buy it below its current market value, because that's the cushion that we secure for the buyer or for the client or for ourselves. And that's how we get rich over time, because we're buying underappreciated assets that are worth more than what we're paying for them.
Yeah, and it's those little things that all tack on, you know? People think you have to make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars all at once. No, it's the little building blocks. You make 10 grand here, all of a sudden you have a $15,000 investment over here building. You have a $600 investment here building. It starts to add up.
It does add up. And same thing. Let's just say if you want to buy anything in life, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, this is the philosophy that everybody can apply to their life. And I posted this on my threads yesterday. Let's reverse engineer the cost always of any purchase that you're making. Doesn't matter if it's a Louis Vuitton bag, or if it's a Cadillac Escalade, or if it's a Ferrari, or even if it's Bugatti Veyron. Like, I want to own a Bugatti one day. I know the cost for me to own a Bugatti is going to be 20 grand a month. So 20 grand a month is what it's going to cost me. I have to reverse engineer that cost to see how many properties do I need to own to pay for that Bugatti or to pay for that Ferrari. So if a Ferrari costs $5,000 a month, what do you need to do? You need to buy 5 properties, and if you know each duplex or each property that you're buying can give you $1,000 in cash flow, you need 5 of them. You got 5 properties, invest into 5 properties first, delay the gratification, buy those 5 properties, make them cash flow you $1,000 a month. Now you have $5 grand a month secured for the rest of your life. That's your FU money. Now you got the FU money. Take that FU money and buy whatever the hell you want. If it's a Ferrari, go buy a damn Ferrari. You can buy that every month. If you don't want to do that, you can be smarter and you can take that $5 grand a month and reinvest that $5,000 a month, which is $60,000 a year. And take that 60 grand a year and further your investments. And now you got $7,000 a month. So it all depends on your goals, upon the things that you want currently in your life. I don't think that, a lot of people have a frugal approach to life. They want to just save. And that's not a right approach either. I think the right approach is you have to have a good balance. Enjoy life, but at the same time, be disciplined enough to enjoy life later on as well. And don't enjoy everything right now. Okay? So I think that's pretty much it for
Yep.
today's podcast. I appreciate you guys all for watching. Any last piece of advice? What's one advice that you have for everybody before they go today?
Tomorrow's not promised. Take a risk today. Educate yourself today. Do what you got to do to change your life today.
Love that. Okay. What about you, Tabs? What's the greatest advice you've ever received in your life that you would like to share with all the people watching in the audience?
Whether or not you like it, your money will be spent, so spend it wisely.
And there you have it, folks. For me, it's buy a Ferrari. It's worth it. No, I'm kidding. Save your money. Be disciplined. Work for your future and work harder than everybody else. You'll be okay. Thank you all for watching this podcast. This has been our fun podcast, one of the fun ones that we do every once in a while. This was not that serious, but I hopefully you enjoyed it. This just gives you the mind frame, the mindset, and the little discussions that we have every single day. See you all for the next podcast. From myself, Ramani Anand, Harjeet Doat, and Aftab Dhillon. Please give us thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. If you enjoy this, please stay tuned for the next one. It'll be even better than this one. Thank you all for watching. Stay invested.